let's hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some frickin' money. It's time for Puck It with Jo. Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's time for Puck It with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV, on X, as well as on YouTube. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. A great Monday. Now, there was no show Monday, and there was supposed to be a show come out on Sunday, but I'm guessing that did not hit, as I got lots of messages on that, and we did have the Saturday show. So I hope you guys made some freaking money over the weekend. Let's jump into today's Tuesday slate. It is loaded. We got lots of opportunities to jump in on some of these players. We got players versus their former teams, which is always exciting. Love to see them coming out nice and strong in those situations. So definitely a couple of players we can look at, especially one that I really have circled that I think it's going to be an emotional time back in Buffalo for him. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll be talking about that one next. Again, if you're joining just later in the show for that recap, stuff like that I don't give out. So it's always beneficial to watch the whole show. I will mention it, but I won't go into as much detail as I do in that last section of the show when we just recap those bets. So let's jump into what we have on the slate for today. Mo, thank you so much for saying that. I went away for a couple of days out to the mountains. So full slate today. Let's get going. Let's win some freaking money, Hall. That is for sure. So jumping into the first game, we have the Nashville Predators taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, this should be an interesting one. We know Nashville and we know their struggles, but are they going to really struggle here as much versus Carolina? You know, you guys, Carolina has just been that inconsistent team. Will they look over the Nashville Predators in this matchup today? Nashville coming in as a $2 favorite at plus 220, minus 275 for the Carolina Hurricanes. Crazy money line price for them. If you want to take that puck line, minus 1.5 on the puck line for Carolina will be minus 102. The puck line for the Nashville Predators currently plus 1.5 at minus 120. If I'm looking at a puck line here, I'd rather look at the Preds to grab that 1.5 on the puck line at minus 120. The total sitting at 5.5. Minus 120 to the over and minus 102 to the under. When I look at this, you got to know what Saros did. And now this wasn't the last game versus the Carolina Hurricanes. This was a couple of seasons back in 2023. So yeah, the 2023-2024 season actually would have been 2022-2023 season. And he's played like 4 games since versus Carolina. But in that game, back in January 2023, Saros completely stood on his head versus Carolina. So it's definitely something we have to note. He made 64 saves in that game. I can remember that game. Carolina was absolutely pelting him with the puck. He just made save after save after save. It was the most saves in a game in franchise history for the Predators and the most by an NHL goaltender since 1990. So you look at that and you look what Saros was able to do. That's why we have to mention it here. Like Saros in 2023 did what we hadn't seen since 1990. So definitely something you want to look at. Saros, I want to play his safe shots on goal prop in this one today, but it's not listed yet. Now, let me double check. I don't want to give you false information, but it wasn't listed about a half an hour ago when I was going over this, and we still aren't seeing it listed on FanDuel. No goalie confirmations as of yet, but it is Saros expected here, and I do expect him to pop into net tonight. Now, I will be looking at a safe shot on goal prop here. We know Carolina gets those shots. They lock down defensively. They're off a win versus the Ducks. 5-2 on Sunday versus Montreal on Friday is where they're sitting in their schedule. This is the first game home off a 4-game road trip. Normally a letdown spot, right? So that's why I'd be looking at the Preds, if anything, plus 1.5 on the puck line, and then Saros for his safe shots, because Saros needs to come to play in this one, and I really do think he will. This is a place where he stands nice and tall. Now, when we're looking at the Predators and where they're sitting in their schedule, 7th in the Central, we know this team, for them to make the playoffs, it would take an absolute miracle. But they have the Blues at home on Thursday. They're off this lost to the St. Louis Blues. So we've got a couple of situations where teams are sandwiched in between back-to-back teams. So it's going to be interesting here. I think they get up quite fast in this game with a goal. I think they get a goal in the first period, keep it tight with Carolina, and then Carolina probably pulls away. But I think Saros, we have that faith in him to start it, right? Like I do think Carolina wins. They are at home, but I can see it being that tighter game. So give me here first period puck line for the Nashville Predators plus a half a goal. It's minus 128. They've only won 2 of their last 11 road games, you guys. So it's really hard to look for the complete upset. If the upset's happening, it's because of Saros. If they can keep it within that puck line for the full game, it's because of Saros. I like the puck line first period with Carolina coming home from the road trip. I think it's the most logical way to take this game. It feels almost the safest way. And we know there's no safe betting when you're talking about any sport, but I do think it's a solid way to go. Now, the last time these teams matched up, the Predators did get the win. It was back in December. It was 5-2. I'm pretty sure it was in Nashville. And we know the inconsistencies we've seen out of Carolina on the road. We know the Preds like to get off to those fast starts, and that's why I'll look at the first period. So first period here, plus a half a goal at minus 128. If you want to take the first period money line, I don't blame you. I'm going to shy off of it. I will put my player prop here on Saros when that number comes out. 28, 29 and a half. I would take it all the way up to that. I'm expecting probably a 24, 25 and a half in this for Saros. So do what you want. Don't go over 29 and a half safe shots on goal. I don't expect this one to be a game where Carolina peppers him with 35. Will I be shocked if they do and he stands on his head and makes 33 safe shots? No, I won't, because Saros, once a goaltender gets into a team's head, they come out like that. And we've seen in the last, 4 games since this one, him make some incredible saves. So I do think Saros is the play today. Irish King, good to see you here. Joe's not allowed a life, right? Joe has a life. Good morning to you, each and every one of you for sure. Nice point there. What are you getting for the point? Let me know. Okay, let's move on to the next game. We have the Ottawa Senators taking on the Buffalo Sabres. This is going to be a great game between these two. Now you look at Buffalo, they're off the win versus the Winnipeg Jets. I still don't understand how they won that game over Winnipeg. Now we know Winnipeg dealing with some injury concerns, so we'll jump into that later. They'll face the Capitals, but looking at Buffalo here, Buffalo always gets up for battles within their division. They're 8th in the Atlantic. The Ottawa Senators are 4th, but the Ottawa Senators playing for so much more. You guys, I look at the Senators team. They are going to be hungry. They need this win. And then this is a player that I'm looking at. You look at Dylan Kozin here coming in for the Ottawa Senators. He was just traded from Buffalo. He's returning home to Buffalo, and this is going to be an emotional return for him. You look at him. He was the 7th overall picked by Buffalo back in 2019. This will be his first time playing back in Buffalo as a different on a different team. So now with Ottawa, I'm looking for Dylan Kozin to come out so strong in this. Now, the player props aren't up for 2+ points yet on FanDuel, but I would be looking at Dylan Kozin for 2+ points in this matchup. The anytime goals coming in at plus 240 for him to score on his former team. Now, since joining the Ottawa Senators, and this is a guy that with Buffalo, they were never in playoff contention, right? Like it was never a situation where he made the playoffs with Buffalo. He's looking to make the playoffs here with the Ottawa Senators, and he's been so impactful since joining this team. 3 goals and 4 assists in just 8 games out there for Ottawa. So he has come in. He's made an impact right away. He's liked by these guys out there on the ice, and they're going to look for him to really be impactful returning to Buffalo. So Dylan Kozin here, 2+ points. Once it comes out, I will be betting that, and the anytime goal at plus 240. I think he's in for a big one. And because I think he's in for a big one, Brady Tkachuk's going to come out firing. I do think we look at the Ottawa Senators on that puck line. Now, looking at current lines on this one, the Ottawa Senators are minus 150, minus 154 money line favorite on the road. I do think it's justified, this line, but you guys know I won't bet something that's over minus 140, minus 144. It's kind of my cutoff. The puck line here for the Ottawa Senators, -1.5, is coming in at +156. And I do think that is the way you want to attack this game. I think the Senators win this by 2. Now, will they make us sweat this one? Absolutely. This is one of those style of games where Buffalo is going to get up. They're going to be rolling in with confidence because they beat the Winnipeg Jets in their last game. If you can beat the Winnipeg Jets, you can beat the Ottawa Senators, right? So you look at that. You look at their fire battle of the Atlantic here. You're going to see both of these teams just come out so hard. Now, will they come out scoring those goals, or are they going to lock down on the defensive side? Buffalo's way of winning will be firing at Omar in net for the Ottawa Senators. I do think we're going to see the Senators answer back in those goals. So when I look at this, for me, this is a 4-2 style game, 4-3 style game, if something weird goes wrong. But I lean more to the under 6.5 because I do think it's 4-2. I don't think we get that case. I think it's, a 3-2 game. They're coming out firing, goaltending standing on their head, and then that 3-2 ends up a 4-2. I don't think it goes a 3-3 to overtime. Like, I just can't see it. I know Buffalo got that win versus the Jets, but I do think this game brings them back to reality here. Dylan Kozin comes out strong. Brady Tkachuk comes out strong. And we see the Senators win this by 2 goals, covering that puck line -1.5 at +156 and staying under the 6.5, 4-2 style game, with that fourth goal probably being an empty netter, and we're all sweating this. So that is the way I'm going to go with this game, you guys. It's going to be a great one out there on the ice. It's dangerous versus the Sabres. The Sabres have won their last 7 games as a home dog and covered the puck line in the last 11 games as a home dog. I'm throwing all those trends out the window in this one. It's going to be a crazy one between them. Okay. Paul, +550 on bet 365 for Kozin for 2+ points. That makes my day. Let's go for sure. Drake Batherson, 2+ points, and Kozin for 2+ points at +1800. Hell yeah, that is definitely worth a sprinkle. We know Batherson has been coming out so strong out there on the ice, and I do think we can see that. Now, let's just look at one thing here. I just want to double check where those lines are and if we're going to see anything different in those lines. Like, the lines are still looking the same with Dylan Kozin centering that second line and Batherson on the right wing. So David Perrin on the left wing. So that's still looking good. Just let me make sure they haven't changed up any power plays. As soon as I'm looking at line mate combos, I want to make sure they're on that same line and they haven't moved them, and they're on the same power play. And we are seeing that. We're still seeing them both on that first power play unit. So always check that when you're doing those combinations for 2+ points for these guys, because I think Kozin's going to get them. Batherson, I think, can get them too. I love that at +1800. Again, both on that second line and both on the first power play. Brady Tkachuk is on that power play with them, as well as Jake Sanderson and Tim Struzel as well. So definitely something to look at. And then we do see Perrin dropping down to that second power play. So I'm glad they didn't move anyone off of that first power play, and we're just going to see it like that. You guys, that's a great bet, Hall. I love where you're going. Good morning, Keith. Happy that you are here today. You guys, let's make some freaking money on the ice. We'll jump into the next game here. We got the Philadelphia Flyers. They're taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, we've got some big favorites on this card today. And, rightly so. You look at some of these underdogs, and it's hard to see them barking in these matchups. The Flyers have been a mess, right? The Flyers have lost their last 5. They lost to the Chicago Blackhawks on Sunday, 7-4. I've seen a couple glimpse highlights of Connor Bedard, what he was able to do, the high shot to the corner, and it was fantastic out there versus the Flyers. And I look at this one, Urgent coming in here versus the Leafs, and he's in trouble. Versus the Leafs, 3 games, gone 1-1 with a 4.26 goals against average and a save percentage of .857. No way I can bet on the Flyers, but at this price here, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, how are we going to make some money? So looking at this one, -260 here for the Leafs. -1.5 on that puck line is coming in at -104. Total 5.5. Interesting total because it's -110 either way. Can we trust the Flyers to get any goals? Not really. So then are we going to see Toronto keep peppering Urgent in net And are they going to put up 5-6 goals themselves? We know that Chicago just put up 6-7 goals actually on the Flyers. So we could see Toronto do it. We know Toronto is that team so strong offensively. I think this is one where we just break this game down. We leave the Flyers out of the equation for their goals. Look at Toronto for their goals. And then stay off the full game total. Look at some player props. So Toronto rolling in here with a prop of 3.5 goals to the over at -108. There's no way I can see them only winning this in a 3-0 style game. I think they win this 4-1, 4-0, whatever they do. I think they get those 4 goals here. I just don't trust Urgent. We are seeing the Flyers allowing an average over their last 10 games of 3.9 goals per game, and they've only been scoring 1.69 over that stretch. So you're looking at a team that's struggling to score. They're giving up those goals. They just gave up 7 to Chicago on Sunday. This is their last game here of a road trip, and I think a 5-game road trip, this is a perfect place to look at their opponent, especially a strong opponent like the Leafs, to just come out and completely pepper them in this one. So I will take Toronto's team total over 3.5 goals coming in at -108. Now, what players do I think are going to step up? Also, look at the fact Toronto with Stolarz in net is off a loss to the Nashville Predators on Saturday on the road. So this is an odd scheduling spot as well, you guys. So something to definitely know. If you think the Flyers are looking to break their losing streak and will bring it here in Toronto, then I don't blame you for looking at the Flyers because of the scheduling spot. I just can't see it. But you look at Toronto, they're home off 2 road games. This is a one-off home game, and then they're on the road versus the Sharks and the Kings and then the Ducks. So the Sharks is on Thursday, the Kings is on Saturday, the Ducks on Sunday. So they have that weekend back-to-back on deck, and one time here at home before they head back out on the road off of 2 road games. So it's an awful scheduling spot. If they had won that last game versus the Predators, like if they had won both games on the road, I'd be going, okay, maybe the Flyers have an opportunity. Maybe they have a chance here, especially because the last time these teams match up, Toronto did win it in that 3-2 style game. But I just can't see it. Off a loss to the Predators that they lost 5-2. They're going to be looking to put on a great show here, pick up the points. They're sitting second in the Atlantic. You know this team wants that first place in the Atlantic. Look for them to dig deep and get those goals on the board. So Austin Matthews for 2+ points is only +164. And I say only because it's just so little value here. But I do think Austin Matthews will come to life in this game. I do think another player here, as you look at John Tavares. John Tavares has scored the first goal in 3 of the last 6 games out there for the Maple Leafs, and I love what we're seeing out of him. If you think he can score another first goal in this one, that's coming in at +1,200. If you think he's just going to score in the first period, FanDuel's giving you that first period goal for John Tavares at +750, and then just to score in this game is coming in at +185. Now, to nail a first goal scorer or a first period goal scorer is so hard, you guys. I don't love it. What you're going to see is once these games flow, like if he comes out and scores in the first period, we're going to not be able to hit this bet. But if we go into that second period, our +185 bet here on John Tavares will, be a +320. We're going to get more value. So a live betting situation here for John Tavares, I do think is in the books. Now, while it's +185, it's still plus money. It's still a good bet for John Tavares to score in this game, especially when I'm expecting 4 goals out of the Leafs. It's just not as much as I want to get for the goal scorer here. So do what you want with John Tavares. I do think he scores tonight. Live betting, I'll probably put a little bit on the pregame number at +185, just in case, because 50% of the last 6 games, 3 out of the last 6, he scored that first goal. So is it worth +1,200 for another sprinkle on the first goal, especially when they've had Urchin's number? It might be. So I don't know where I'm going to go with that one at all. Ekman Larsson, 499 career points, 1 away from 500. Yeah, Ekman Larsson definitely worth a sprinkle looking at him for sure. Oh, Vinny, I'm sorry. My show was supposed to air on Sunday. Not sure why it didn't drop on Sunday. I pre-recorded on Saturday and then yesterday I just wasn't able to get it done. So apologies, everyone, for that. I should have put a note out for you guys. Thought I kind of said it on Saturday on my show, but maybe I didn't. Let's move on. But thank you so much for your concern. It means so much that you guys look for the show on the daily. Let's jump into the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Pittsburgh Penguins are a plus 230 underdog here versus Tampa. Tampa at minus 285. Andrei Vasilevskiy expected in net, actually confirmed in net for Tampa tonight. Now we have a total of 6.5. Plus money to the over at plus 108. The juice is to the under at minus 132. And the puck line on both sides, plus 1.5 on the puck line for the Penguins, minus 110, minus 1.5 on the puck line for the Tampa Bay Lightning at minus 110. Again, your goaltending matchup in this one is Andrei Vasilevskiy for the Tampa Bay Lightning and Tristan Jarry expected here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now we look at the Penguins are off the loss to Florida. They played a great game versus the Florida Panthers. It went to a shootout. They lost that one 4-3 on Sunday. The Tampa Bay Lightning, this team's kind of been streaky as of late. They lost their last two. They lost to Vegas on Sunday, 4-2. First game home off of 3 out there on the road. They went 1-2 on that road trip. This team's sitting 3rd in the Atlantic, while the Pittsburgh Penguins are sitting 7th in the Metro. The last time these teams matched up, we did see the Lightning get the win in January. 5-2 win for them. Now, I think it's interesting to look at the Pittsburgh Penguins in some capacity here. We do have a teammate that was on the Penguins for so long. You guys know Jake Gunsel here now with the Tampa Bay Lightning, facing his former team. And Sidney Crosby and him were like besties out there on the ice when he played for Pittsburgh. And I'm sure their friendship has continued with him moving over to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm sure these guys talk on the regular, and they're planning some off-season stuff together. So looking here, I think very interesting to look at Jake Gunsel to come out nice and strong versus his former team, but also for Sidney Crosby to answer back against his former teammate. So I am going to play some player props on those guys, but I'm looking for the Penguins to come out fast to start this game, especially with the confidence of what they're able to do versus Florida. Yes, it was a loss. Yes, they're going to be hungry to get back in that win column. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to do so against a team that's kind of being up and down in the Tampa Bay Lightning. There's a couple ways you can take the first period. I do think we see over 1.5 goals in the first period. We know how strong these offenses can be, both of them, in that first period, and you can look at both teams to score. I'm not going to do that. I think it's a great way to go. I'm not going to do it, though. What I'm going to look here is try to isolate the Pittsburgh Penguins in that first period and what I think. It's so interesting here to see that you can get the Pittsburgh Penguins first period just to score a goal at minus 122, and I do think it's the way I want to go. I think Vasilevskiy has allowed some weak goals as of late. We know Tampa should look to, Florida should, no, let me try again. The Pittsburgh Penguins should look to come out nice and strong. In this first period, they know they have to get that momentum under their belt going into the second. They come out so strong in the first period in some of these games, and that's where they've struggled is in the second and third to hold leads. So if you want to look at them on the money line in the first period, I like it. It's coming in at plus 180. The Penguins just straight up on the puck line, plus 0.5 goals, minus 138. So I'm going to do 3 bets for a total 1 unit, a third of a unit on each in the first period for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then if we lose it, we probably lose all 3, to be honest with you guys, because I'm going to take the first period for a goal for the Penguins for a third, the money line at plus 180, and the Pittsburgh Penguins on the puck line plus 0.5 goal at minus 138. A third on each. Again, like I said, if Tampa comes out, wins at 1-0, we lose. Well, we don't. Yeah, we lose all 3, right? So it's going to be interesting. Actually, we'll get the Penguins plus 0.5 goal. No, we won't. We won't even get that plus 0.5. Yes, we will. We'll get the plus 0.5 goal. My mind, you guys, you can tell I've been on vacation for a couple of days, but I do think if the Penguins, come out strong first period, we're going to cash all 3 of those. And I'm really looking for us to cash all 3 of those. I love that plus 180 on the money line. Like I said, their biggest issue this season has been coming into the first, getting that lead and just falling apart. Tristan Jarry should be in net here for the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. Then I'm going to look at Sidney Crosby for the anytime goal at plus 200. I'm going to look at Jake Gunsel at plus 135 for his anytime goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. Good morning, Cody. Good to see you. You guys are just absolutely the best. I appreciate each and every one of you so much for being here. We'll get into find 2 good over and unders in the first period. Yeah, I definitely have those for you. We're going to get into a couple of games that I'm liking in that first period for sure. I do think this is probably when you can look at the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Tampa Bay Lightning first period. Probably like 2-1. If the Penguins can do what I'm expecting in that first period, would be perfect, pushing us over the 1.5 and both teams to score in the first period. Let's look at the Montreal Canadiens versus the St. Louis Blues. This is going to be another great game. We have the St. Louis Blues so hot right now. And I love it, you guys, except for the fact that they're battling it out for that last wild card spot with Calgary, Vancouver. You know, I'm looking for Calgary to make the playoffs, but how this Blues team is playing, man, it's going to be hard. They won their last 6. They got the win on Sunday versus the Predators 4-1. They've been stellar in net and on defense and offensively, grinding these games out, getting those wins. Jordan Binnington expected to start here for them. We look at their ability to get these goals on this winning streak, and it's been nuts, you guys. They have 4 goals in their last 4 games in each of them. And then 5 games prior, they had 7 versus the Ducks and 5 the game prior versus the Wild. So this team has been going over 3.5 goals in this winning streak of 6. You can get them today over 3.5 goals at plus 124. It just makes the most sense for me in this one to bet that Blues team total because I do like what Montreal has brought to the table. I'm just pulling up odds here on FanDuel for you guys on this game. The Montreal Canadiens are coming in at minus 130 for underdog price. We know Montreal scrappy. Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Lane Hudson. This team has been like just going so strong out there. They are another team that has been hot offensively in some of these games. And then the St. Louis Blues with Binnington in net and their defense, they've been locking opponents down. So the St. Louis Blues are minus 162 favorite at home. We got a total of 5.5, minus 122 to the over. And I do think this one gets to that over because I'm expecting Montreal to put up a couple goals. Will this be a 4-2, 4-3 style game? It's right in between. We look at Montreal, scrappy underdog, right? They've covered that puck line in the last 11 as an underdog. Caulfield, I expect to get those points on the board tonight. And it's crazy to think that Montreal also has scored 4 goals or more in 7 of their last 10. So like I said, this offense has been great. But in their last 2 games, scary to see what their defense has done, allowing 9 goals over those last 2. Sam Montembeault in net tonight. I do think we look for the St. Louis Blues to hit him, and that's why I'm going to go with the over 3.5 goals for them at plus 124. I do think this could be a back and forth battle, 4-3 again, like I said, or we could see that 4-2. So kind of dangerous to look at a puck line on either side. I won't touch it. We're looking at the St. Louis Blues heading out on a 2-game road trip. It starts off on Thursday versus the Predators. So you always look at teams that are on winning streaks about to head off on the road trip. But St. Louis is playing for so much. Again, they're sitting 5th in the Central, fighting for that last wild card spot. But Montreal isn't going to go away easy in this one. Jordan Kyrou has been getting those shots, and he's been so strong at getting those shots at home as well. Definitely someone you want to look for here. He's also had success versus Montreal. He's been able to score that first goal versus the Montreal Canadiens in their last 2 meetings, you guys, at home. So I would look at Jordan Kyrou for the goal tonight and call Caulfield for the answer back goal. I really do see it. And let me just pull up those odds because off the top of my head, I'm forgetting those numbers. They're not the best, right? Like we're not getting as much value as I'd like. Jordan Kyrou at plus 116. Plus 165 for the anytime goal. Caulfield at plus 175 for the anytime goal. You know, I also like looking at Dylan Holloway, Jake Neighbors, and Robert Thomas here for the St. Louis Blues. They've been playing some fantastic hockey. I do think you'll see Jake Neighbors in front of the net really grinding that out there. We could see Jake Neighbors for that goal at plus 250 as well. So definitely someone you want to circle. Patrick Liney here is coming in at plus 270. And I was talking about Lane Hudson as well. Lane Hudson, his anytime goal scorer, he's only got a handful of goals, right, on the season. But this young rookie has really been phenomenal out there getting those assists. So the anytime goals at plus 750. But looking at his assist number for Lane Hudson tonight, currently on FanDuel coming in at minus 113. Definitely worth a look there. So I think you play around with this one. I think we've got some goals coming, the majority of them coming out of the St. Louis Blues, but should be a good game for sure. That is absolutely a heartbreaker there that you lost. I think the Islanders should be dead to you for life after they lost you that much money. I am so sorry to hear the Islanders did you that dirty. Seems chalky. Yeah, it seems chalky. And that's why we've got to go with some of these teams to look more at their team totals, look at a way to make some money out there. You guys know I hate laying that chalk as well. Yeah, I know the St. Louis Blues probably will take out the Calgary Flames. You know, I don't want to see it, but I really do like St. Louis. So there's funny teams that I have really connected to. The LA Kings are one of them. Too bad they're in the Pacific, like Calgary. But the St. Louis Blues, another one. I just really like how these teams play. Rob got burned by the Islanders too. Who don't the Islanders burn? I tell you, the Islanders are one of those teams that, man, they're so inconsistent, and then they pull out these wins or they lose these games that they really shouldn't. Let's move on to the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Minnesota Wild. Let me just pull up odds here on FanDuel again. So Vegas out there on the road coming in at minus 196, $2 favorite basically here for Vegas. Minnesota Wild plus 162. Kaprizov, I'm still not hearing when he's going to be back in the lineup for the Wild. He probably, we got 3 weeks left. I don't think we're going to see him back out there, especially how the Wild have been playing as of late. This team is struggling, you guys, sitting fourth in the Central. I think they're going to take another loss tonight. They just keep not being able to pick up these points. It's going to be a hard game for them. Interesting, though, Marc-Andre Fleury expected in that versus Adin Hill here for Vegas. Now, the last time these teams matched up, Vegas did get that 4-1 win. First in the Pacific here, fourth in the Central for the Minnesota Wild. Vegas has won their last 3, Sunday versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, 4-2. They'll be at Chicago on Friday and at the Predators on Saturday. So they do have a back-to-back Friday and Saturday loading here for Vegas. And we look here at the Minnesota Wild. They got shut out, and it was just last night, to the Dallas Stars in Dallas. So they played in Dallas last night. They've got to return home here. And I do think it's a really hard spot on the second night of back-to-back after being shut out 3-0 off a one-off road game. It's not even like they were out on the road for a couple. They're returning home. They went out for one. Now, Vegas has dominated this matchup. Like I said, they won 4-1 in January. They've also won 8 of the last 10 head-to-head matchups here with them, and they've won the last 4 straight. And in those last 4 straight, they've outscored them 16-6. I'm looking here, though, for goaltending Marc-Andre Fleury to come out strong versus Vegas in this one, and for this to be that lower scoring game. You got to remember that Thomas Hertl is out of the lineup with a shoulder injury here for Vegas. That is hugely impactful. Thomas Hertl has been great for them this season. Now, Riley Smith has been able to score a goal in 3 of the last 4 versus the Wild. So if you want to look for that player to really step up in this one, look for Riley Smith of the Vegas Golden Knights. As soon as you get a player that's hot against another team, you look for them to continue to be able to do so. The Wild, when they're able to get the goals on the board, can get the win. So when they've scored 3 or more goals, they've gone 35-3-2. They're not going to score 3 or more goals on Adin Hill tonight. I'm just not buying into it. I do think the Vegas comes out nice and strong. So give me the under 5.5 coming in at minus 108. And that's probably the only way I want to go. Yeah, it should be a great game here for the Vegas Golden Knights. That is for sure. Wild shots were into pads and jerseys just yesterday. Dallas was Dallas was beatable. Yeah, Dallas was beatable in that game. I've seen some highlights. I wasn't able to watch all of the games yesterday. So Pittsburgh 3-way first way money line at plus 280. Great bet. I do think the Pittsburgh Penguins come out nice and strong to start that one. Starting at the end of the month. Okay, that is good. Kaprizov starting at the end of the month here. That will be great to see. Yeah, the Wild are just playing weak. That is for sure. Okay. Let's so yeah, the under is where I'm going to go with Vegas and Minnesota. I just think it's going to be a goaltending battle. Your goaltenders are Adin Hill versus Marc-Andre Fleury. Let's move on to the Washington Capitals versus the Winnipeg Jets. We all know Ovi is chasing records here. And if you want to bet Ovi for an anytime goal tonight, I don't blame you. But the Winnipeg Jets and Connor Hellebuyck needs to stand on his freaking head tonight and stop disappointing us. So Ovechkin right now is plus 140 for that anytime goal. We know he's chasing records, and if anyone is hungry to score, it is him. I can't bet it at a minus 140 bet here because I do think this is a lower scoring game in this, or sorry, plus 140. I think it's a lower scoring one. Logan Thompson versus Connor Hellebuyck. So total 5.5. Give me the under 5.5 at minus 106. My only fear with this under is overtime. So I do think another way to look is that first period under 1.5 goals at plus 100. I know these offenses can score. And while I do worry about the empty netter situation or the overtime bet pushing us over the 5.5, I do think that it should be the defensive scrappy game out there, playoff style hockey. And I'll gladly take an under 5.5 when I think it's going to be playoff style hockey. For the first period, under 1.5 goals, that's coming in at plus 100. Could it be a higher scoring than a lower scoring second? Yeah. So I'll bet the under 1.5 in the first period at plus 100. If it doesn't cash and we see both teams scoring, I'll come back in on the under 1.5 in the second. I do think between the two, between the two, one of those will cash to the under. Now, where am I going to look for a side? I don't want to, you guys, because I will look at the overtime. The overtime bet coming in at plus 320. I think there's a couple of players you can circle in this one. Connor Hellebuyck over the last 2 games has allowed 8 goals on 37 freaking shots on his net. Connor Hellebuyck needs to play elite hockey out there. And it's going to be hard because we know the Caps are rolling in here, averaging 3.66 goals per game, 27.5 shots on goal, and their power play is converting at 22%. We know they have the playmakers. They've allowed 2.54 goals per game, which is third best in the league, 27.2 shots on goal, and they've got the third best kill here at 82.8%. When we look at the Winnipeg Jets, they've averaged 3.45 goals per game, third best in the league. So you might think I'm crazy taking an under 5.5, but it's the defenses that need to step up. You look at the defense here, and we look at the power play, and we know the Jets have the best power play, 30.1%. Their kill, 78.8. The kill here is the third best for the Washington Capitals at 82. So I do think that kill against the power play, could we see conversion? Yeah, but these teams have to be so careful now to give each other that ability to go on that power play. And I do think if the Caps allow the Jets in the power play, we're going to see that kill just a fortress tonight out there on the ice. So I look at that, and you look at the Jets defense. This defense is phenomenal, allowing only 2.38 goals per game, best in the league, 27.3 shots on goal. Their kill, though, it's a little bit of Achilles heel, only at 78.8, but when we're saying only 78.8, that is still a pretty solid kill. So the under 5.5, the under 1.5 first period, overtime at plus 320. And then you got to look at the Jets. They've had to shift some lines here. Flaherty out of the lineup with an upper body injury. We're not sure what it is. He was on that top line with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. So we have seen now that top line we've got Kyle Connor and Scheifele, and then there's one more guy. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'll look that up for you guys. But we're seeing those lines shifting on that top line. And I do think here, it's Alex Iafallo. Iafallo, I believe is how you pronounce his name correctly. I butcher names, you guys. I know that. But so you're seeing that movement And I do think Mark Scheifele centering that top line with them will be able to step up into that position. Now, February 1st, these teams did match up. We saw that higher scoring game, 5-4 win for the Winnipeg Jets. I just can't see it happening in this one. Higher scoring. Now, Washington has dominated this matchup. They've won 7 of the last 10 meetings. So definitely something to know on how these teams have done in the past, because that is huge. And with Ladardi out of the lineup and line shifting here, could the Capitals roll in here and get the win? They absolutely could, but at plus 126, when we've got Connor Hellebuck needing that bounce back game, I just can't bet it. And the Jets off that loss to the Sabres, I do think they were looking ahead to this game. I think they should have been playing a little bit smarter out there, though, versus the Buffalo Sabres. But I'm going to look here to stay off the side. Just give me the overtime. I think this is a battle. One that the Jets probably walk away with the win, but at minus 152, I can't bet it. That is for sure. Next game on deck. It's going to be a good one here. Let me just pull up odds. We have the Red Wings versus the Colorado Avalanche. The Red Wings are coming in at a plus 240 price here. Colorado at minus 300. Total of 6.5 at plus 112. And you guys know me. I love trying to find a way to bet on the dogs. I almost feel like taking every single dog on the board today for a little bit of a sprinkle, especially when we're getting, the Red Wings at a plus 240 price, but it can't get there. I think that's a hard spot for the Red Wings to come in. Cam Talbot here versus Mackenzie Blackwood. We know Colorado at home this season has been so strong, 23, 10, and 2. I like what Mackenzie Blackwood brings to this team, and we are seeing Colorado off a game. They were pushed a little bit more than they expected. We didn't expect that, though, versus Montreal. The Montreal Canadiens pushed them into a shootout. The Colorado still won 5-4 on Saturday, so good to see Montreal keeping it tight. But you look at this Colorado team, and I do think they will come out nice and strong, but I don't think they cover that puck line. We're looking at a Red Wings team, 19-15 on the puck line on the road this season, 16-19 here for Colorado. Now we're getting the Red Wings coming in at plus 1.5 at minus 105 on that puck line. I do think they can cover it. They're coming off a nice win versus Utah, 5-1. This is the last game out there on the road. And yes, this team is going to be hungry to get home. They got the Senators on deck on Thursday, 6 in the Pacific here. But the last time these teams matched up, and we see that trend to the under between them. We saw that 2-1 win for Colorado in December. And I do think Cam Talbot can do enough in this game. Mackenzie Blackwood will be strong, and we will have a game that's a 1-goal game. So I love the Red Wings here, plus 1.5 at minus 105. Like I said, I would love to sprinkle on them at plus 300. I just don't think I can get there. Now, if Colorado goes up in this game, 1-0, quick, straight out of the gate, I will be coming back in on the Red Wings for maybe a sprinkle on that money line. I already will have the puck line in my hand because I'll grab them now at plus 1.5 at minus 105 because I think the value is there. But Colorado has dominated this matchup. So I just want more plus money if I'm willing to take a chance here. They've won 4 of the last 5 meetings. So while they've been lower scoring, Colorado has dominated. We're looking at Cale Makar. He's been fire versus the Red Wings when at home. He's been able to score in each of the Avs' last 3 games at home versus the Red Wings. So look at Cale Makar to be impactful here for Colorado. His anytime goal, let me just pull it up for you guys, is coming in at plus 260. So you can get Cale Makar for the anytime goal at plus 260. His points, are going to be so highly juiced. It's minus 310 for a freaking point for Cale Makar. Natchez and McKinnon, both highly juiced as well. Nathan McKinnon at minus 530. Natchez coming in here at minus 225. So you really can't get there. Valery Nichushkin, I love what we've seen out of him as well. But again, too highly juiced at minus 220. I do think one way you could look at would be the power play points for these guys. Looking at Cale Makar on the power play, that is where I love it. It's coming in at plus 198. So I would rather take the power play point at minus 198 than the anytime goal at plus 260. I know you're getting more value for the goal, but I do think that power play could convert for Cale Makar, either assist or a goal tonight for him. Let's move on to the last two games on a deck of the day, you guys. We have the Seattle Kraken taking on the Calgary Flames. This one, the puck will drop at 9 o'clock Eastern. Battle of the Pacific here. Calgary a minus 137 favorite, and the juice keeps ticking up on this game. I want to grab Calgary, but at minus 137, man, that's a hard way to go. Plus 114 for the Seattle Kraken, total of 5.5. Minus 110 to the over. I do tend to think, even though we've seen some trends to the under, Dustin Wolf has been so solid at home that Calgary is able to put up some goals on Joey Decord. We're seeing the Seattle Kraken coming off a game where they were able to put up goals versus the Edmonton Oilers. I would be looking at both teams to score in the first period and the over 1.5 goals in the first period. I think it's a great way to go with this matchup in the Pacific. And while it's against, looking at teams that are battling out there within a division, I just think Calgary's good for one. And I do think if Seattle's able to hit Dustin Wolf, it comes quick. Now, the Seattle Kraken, you guys know I've been fading to their totals of their goals out there. But I think if they score, it's in the first period, and then Calgary probably shuts them down. Now, both teams to score is coming in at plus 174. The over 1.5 goals is coming in at minus 118. I would rather take that. I could see Calgary in this matchup scoring 2 goals in that first period, coming out hot out of the gate. I will take the over 1.5. The last time these teams matched up in February, we did see Calgary get the 3-2 win. They won their last 3. They got that overtime win on Saturday, 4-3 versus the Isles. Now, this is the first game home off a road trip. They know they got to come out hungry straight out of the gate versus the Seattle Kraken. The Kraken have lost their last 2, and this is another game where you've got the Kraken playing Calgary, which is sandwiched between Edmonton. So they were just in Edmonton. They lost that game 5-4 to the Edmonton Oilers. And Thursday, they're at home versus the Edmonton Oilers again, who we know are sitting up there in the Pacific, and Edmonton without Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl for a bit. And we were able to see that push. And I think because Calgary's home off of a road trip, we'll see Seattle be able to push in that first period. But then ultimately, I think Calgary is able to win this in an interesting game. I think the Kraken go under their team total. It's coming in at 2.5, but I'm asking a lot betting that. The under 2.5 coming in at minus 102 because I think they get a goal in the first. I think this is a goal in the first, goal in the third for the Seattle Kraken. So 2 goals keeping us under the 2.5 at minus 102. And out of Calgary, we get 3 or 4. So that will play with that total. I think if we get the 4th goal, it is that empty netter. So I think this is another 3-2 style game, 4-2 if we get the empty netter for the Calgary Flames, who are battling it out for that last wildcard spot. They absolutely need the freaking win tonight. Seattle knows that. They want to spoil Calgary's hopes. So I will go there. Now, Morgan Frost has been really solid in his career versus the Seattle Kraken. He's also been stepping up so much for Calgary since being traded over from the Philadelphia Flyers. So I'd look at Morgan Frost. We know Kadri has been so elite out there in that game versus the Islanders. He was able, I believe he got the OT winner, or he was able to get a goal in that one. And then we look at Huberdeau. Huberdeau has been elite as well. So Kadri and Huberdeau parlayed for their points tonight, even though I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think is a fantastic way to go. Now, when we look at the New York Rangers taking on the LA Kings, this game has to be a defensive battle tonight. I'm so excited to see who walks out of this one on top. I think it will be the Kings. You guys, I already told you I had a soft spot for this Kings team. I love their style of play. I love gritty defensive hockey, and that's why I like the St. Louis Blues as well. This team able to really lock down, hard-hitting, hard-checking games that, you hear those hits against the board and these players playing their hearts out on the ice. I don't love the flashy offensive games. I don't know why, you guys, but that's a style of hockey that I like. The LA Kings coming in here at minus 164 on that money line, plus 136 for the New York Rangers, total 5.5. So you guys know it already. I'm taking the under 5.5. You will have to lay the juice, though. It's minus 122 to the under 5.5 in this matchup. If you think that the Kings are going to score 4 goals, and take it to the over, because the over 5.5 is plus 100. But I do think Igor Shesterkin is in for a good game here versus the LA Kings. And I think Darcy Kemper on the other side, another goaltending battle in this one. I would look at the first period under 1.5 goals. I don't think both of these teams come out flying out of the gate. We know the Kings at home have been straight fire this season. So if the Rangers come out first with a goal and we see the LA Kings move to an underdog price, 100% jump on them. Right now, they're too juicy on that money line at minus 164 for me to touch, but I do think they get the win in a tight game, low scoring game. So the LA Kings have won their last 3. They're off the big win versus Boston. They put up 7 goals on the Boston Bruins, 7-2 on Sunday, but I don't see that many goals coming out of them on Igor Shesterkin tonight. Now you look at the Rangers, they're off the win versus Vancouver on Saturday. They got that 5-3 win. They're at the Ducks on Friday. 5th in the Metro here for the New York Rangers and 2nd in the Pacific for the LA Kings. Now, Quinton Byfield has been so strong for the Kings, being able to score a goal in each of the Kings' last 7 home games. So if you want to look at Byfield, again, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. You guys know I love Kempe and Kopitar parlayed together for the points, but I do think you could throw in Byfield as well because of the success he's had. I do think this is a 3-1, 3-2 style win here for the LA Kings, but I'm not going to touch the puck line just because it very easily could be that 3-2 with the Rangers getting a couple goals, because the Rangers are trying to make a push as well. So this is going to be a great matchup as well out there. John, let's make some freaking money. I missed you guys too, for sure. I just went away to the mountains for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So thanks to you guys for all of the love. Yeah, we can definitely. Can you touch on the St. Louis Blues to win the Stanley Cup? Yeah, Bill, let's go over that. Let's so hang tight for a bit. You guys, let's do the recap. We will then, Mo, look at those couple of players for those 2+ points tonight. Absolutely. And then Bill will jump into the odds for the St. Louis Blues to win the Stanley Cup and what we need to see out of them for that to happen. So it will be good. Wild, yeah. Wild on a back-to-back, really hard. So, yeah, Vegas has had their struggles and Thomas Hertl out of the lineup. So maybe that is your upset of the night there, if you really look at it and break it down that way. But let's get into the recap. Again, recap, you guys, and we'll look at the top players, and then we will look at the St. Louis Blues' ability to take the cup. Lots of games today. I'm so excited. I'm glad to be back, you guys. Again, apologies for that Sunday show not dropping and not telling you guys that I wouldn't be doing a Monday show. So recap time, the Nashville Predators versus the Carolina Hurricanes. And let me just check one thing as we get into this recap. I want to see if we are seeing confirmation of goalies in this one. I am expecting Saros. We're still not seeing the confirmation. So I do think because of Saros, we can see the Nashville Predators keep this tight versus the Carolina Hurricanes. Give me the Predators first period puck line plus a half a goal at minus 128. I think they come out of the gate so strong. Saros, a couple of seasons ago, made franchise history with 64 saves versus the Carolina Hurricanes. The Carolina Hurricanes are the better team. Absolutely. But this is the first game home off a 4-game road trip. I think the Preds keep it tight, at least to start. I expect them to cover the puck line in the full game. If Saros plays the way I want to see him. Now, Saros, I'm not getting the save shots on goal prop. I'm expecting it to be a 24.5, 25.5. Take it, of course, to the over. I think he saves like 28, 29 shots on goal. So definitely something you want to look at. I would even take him over 29.5 save shots on goal, but that would be the highest I would go for Saros. So depending on the numbers, definitely where you want to jump in. And make sure you do stay tuned to X and to YouTube. I will post if I'm getting good numbers out there. the Ottawa Senators versus the Buffalo Sabres. I do think this is about Dylan Kozin coming back in to Buffalo. 2+ points for him and the anytime goal coming in at plus 240. I do think the Ottawa Senators win this by multiple goals. Give me the Ottawa Senators -1.5 at plus 146. I think the Sabres, I think they struggle in this one. They will come in with confidence. They are off that win versus the Winnipeg Jets, but I just don't think they get it done, even though divisional matchup here. The Sens are just playing for so much more. And again, I think we sweat this one because I think that final goal, like I think this is 3-2 in the third period. We see that fourth goal because of an empty netter here for the Ottawa Senators, covering that puck line, blowing the puck line for anyone who had the Sabres to keep it tight. The Philadelphia Flyers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look for Toronto to score in this one. I can't trust Urjan with his numbers versus the Maple Leafs, but I also can't trust the defense here of the Flyers, who've been allowing these opponents to rack up the goals over their last 10 games, allowing 3.9 goals per game. Give me the Toronto Maple Leafs off a loss to the Predators to come out firing over 3.5 goals at -108. Now, I do think Tavares should be able to come out nice and strong. He scored the first goal in 3 of the last 6 for the Maple Leafs. And I do think in this one, you play around with it. His anytime goal at plus 185, not as much plus money as I wanted out there. I almost want to wait on this one to bet it going into the second period, where I'm going to get it right around plus 320 because I think he scores today. That first goal, though, if you're tempted, is coming in at plus 1200. The first period goal at plus 750. And like I said, 50% of his games in the last 6, he's been able to score a goal, the first goal actually, up for this team. So Tavares definitely has been hot. Austin Matthews for 2+ points. Not as much value again as I wanted at plus 164, but you are still getting plus money. The Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. We get Jake Gunsel here versus his former team in the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I think Gunsel comes out nice and strong. Again, the books are going to make you pay for his goal at plus 135. The Pittsburgh Penguins is where I want to focus in this matchup, which I didn't think I would be saying when I first looked at the schedule, but looking at Pittsburgh off that loss to Florida in the shootout, I like what we saw out of them in that game. I watched some highlights, and they were playing great hockey out there. I'm looking for the Penguins to be able to start off hot. This is where this team plays its best hockey, and then things fall apart. Give me a third of a unit on all 3 of these bets. The Pittsburgh Penguins puck line plus a half a goal at -138. The Pittsburgh Penguins at plus 180 on the money line in the first period, and the Pittsburgh Penguins over a half a goal in the first period at -122. So all first period bets, again, the puck line in the first period plus a half a goal, the money line in the first period, as well as over a half a goal in the first period. Third of the unit on each. The Pittsburgh Penguins have won their last 6 first periods. While I'm looking at Jake Gunsel for the Lightning to get a goal, I'm looking for one of his best friends, Sidney Crosby, to answer back on Andre Vasilevsky at plus 200. The Montreal Canadiens and the St. Louis Blues. I think we got a really great matchup here for the Blues, who are fighting for so much. Over 3.5 goals for the St. Louis Blues coming in at plus 124. Montreal has been on fire offensively, but so has St. Louis. St. Louis in their last 4 games scoring 4 goals in all of those and 5 and 7 in the 2 prior. We've seen Montreal trending highly to that over as well, scoring 4 more goals in 7 of their last 10. The problem is they're coming against Jordan Binnington. The reason why I'm not taking the full game, I do think Jordan Binnington could be so strong between the pipes tonight that I just want to take the Blues team total to the over. The last time these teams matched up, though, Montreal did put up 5 goals. So if you just want to play the full game over, I don't blame you. The Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Minnesota Wild. This Wild team, I struggle to bet. They're off another loss. They got shut out last night versus the Dallas Stars. One off-road game, out on the road, coming back here, now taking on Adin Hill and the Vegas Golden Knights. Just give me the under in this one. Vegas is still missing Thomas Hertl. You guys pointed out Vegas has had those struggles versus the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota tends to win when they can score 3 or more games. And I know this team, 18-15-2 at home, 13-22 on that puck line, though. So when they've got these wins, they haven't been winning them by multiple. I struggle to see Minnesota beating Vegas, but it could be our upset of the night. I think no matter what happens, we stay under the 5.5 goals at -108. Vegas without Thomas Hertl, that is a huge blow, but they have dominated Minnesota, and they've won the last 4 straight versus Minnesota 16-6. So with those goals scoring, outscoring them 16-6. The Washington Capitals and the Winnipeg Jets. We've got great goaltenders here, but one goaltender that really needs a bounce back, which is Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck in his last 2 has just allowed way too many goals on 37 shots. He has allowed 8 goals. It's just unacceptable for Connor Hellebuyck. He is back here at home. This team's still sitting first in the Central. Now they're taking on a Washington Capitals team where Ovi's looking to break records. Ovi's anytime goal plus 140. It doesn't give me enough plus money for me to back Ovi going into this game. I said that in his last game out versus the Panthers, and what happened, Ovi came out and scored right away. I wanted to live bet Ovi. So if you really feel he's going to get that goal quick, bet it now, because then you're just not going to get, you're not going to be able to jump in. I think the goal probably comes late if Ovi's able to hit it, but Connor Hellebuyck, I have faith in. I'm going to look at first period under 1.5 goals at plus 100. I'm going to look at the full game just to go to overtime, not that total, even though I think it stays under. I'm expecting an overtime bet here to cash for us at plus 320. John Carlson's been racking up those shots on goal, you guys. So look at John Carlson for the Washington Capitals. And I do think this is a shots on goal prop market night. But Mark Scheifele with the change-ups here for the Winnipeg Jets. I think he is good for an assist because Kyle Connor's been cold as of late. He's only got 1 point over his last 3 games. And Scheifele has not been scoring. So I think we're going to see with these lines shifting up, that we're going to see Mark Scheifele be able to get the assist, Kyle Connor to get the goal. So that is where I'm going with that game. The Detroit Red Wings and the Colorado Avalanche. Give me the Red Wings plus the 1.5, -105. I love Colorado, but I do think this game will trend like they normally do between these two opponents to the under. And I think 2-1, 3-2 style win here for Colorado. And of course, they're too juicy on that money line. I can't see the Red Wings really pulling off the upset. I do think, though, it is a tight battle. Colorado's home off of 3 on the road, so we could see that really interesting one. But either way, it's a 1-goal game. Cale Makar has been strong versus the Red Wings too, so play around with him. And then look at the Seattle Kraken versus the Calgary Flames. For Calgary to come out nice and strong, we're not getting as much value as I would like to see on Calgary going into this game. But I do think that they probably pull away. I think this is a game where we see the Seattle Kraken be able to score quick on Dustin Wolf and then be able to be shut down. So looking at Seattle's team total under 2.5 goals, -108, I think is a fantastic way to go. I'm just kind of nervous that Calgary wins this more 3-2 instead of 4-2 because of the empty netter. So I don't want to jump on the puck line. Morgan Frost has been strong, but Calgary's playing for so much, even though they're home off their road trip. I think we probably look at that first period over 1.5 goals. It's coming in right around -118. You don't have to look at both teams to score in that regard, and then we won't have to sweat Seattle as much, but I could see both teams scoring. And then the New York Rangers and the LA Kings. Love this game. Love it, love it, love it. To the under 5.5 goals at -120. I do think the Kings walk away with the win, but this price, I can't lay it here. Could we see overtime between these two? Actually, that's a really interesting look. Let's just look at what overtime. Quinton Byfield, definitely the player I'm going to be circling for the Kings, along with Kempe and Kopitar. But looking at this one for the overtime bet currently on FanDuel, the overtime's coming in at +320. You guys, a +320 bet for overtime between these two in a lower scoring 5.5 game, definitely where I want to go. Yeah, the Wild, I have a hard time betting on the Wild. That is for sure. Okay, so that is the recap, you guys. We've done the recap. Let's look at some of those players for 2+ points tonight. So if we're looking at players for 2+ points tonight, let me just go to the top here on FanDuel and look at which players I'm trusting the most. I'm going to step the Preds in Carolina. It's going to be my favorite player tonight, Dylan Kozin, for 2+ points of the Ottawa Senators versus his former team in the Buffalo Sabres. Now, when we look at Buffalo, we know Tage Thompson has the ability to answer back. So be really careful with Tage tonight. I would look at Tage for his goals for Buffalo, but Kozin there. And then I love what Hall threw out of Drake Batherson. Like we checked, they're on that second line together. They're on the top power play together. Dylan Cozen, if he's getting 2 points, I do think Drake Batherson is getting those points tonight as well. So I would take Dylan Cozen and Drake Batherson for a point each. Parlayed together, you're going to get great plus money, and then play around with it outside. I trust Dylan Cozen the best for the 2+ points, but you can see it from Drake Batherson on those same lines. So I like where you're going there for sure. You guys that are looking at Batherson, I would look at Austin Matthews for 2+ points tonight. Again, we're not getting the plus money that we're getting with Dylan Cozen, but 2+ points here for Austin Matthews coming in at +164 of the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Philadelphia Flyers. Again, I expect the Leafs to be able to score those goals tonight. When we look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, this is a hard one. I do think Jake Guentzel will score against his former team, and Sidney will score on Vasilevsky. So Sidney Crosby. So I would look at both of those guys parlayed, even though they're opposite teams, for a point tonight. I wouldn't take the 2+. I think that's getting a little greedy in that matchup. When we look at Montreal versus the St. Louis Blues, this should be a higher scoring game. So let's just look at a couple of players for those 2+ points, because I don't have those numbers up in front of me for the value we're going to get. So when we look here, you guys know I'm already high on Jordan Kyrou for this game. 2+ points for Jordan Kyrou of the St. Louis Blues, coming in at +320. The favorite here for 2+ points on the books is Robert Thomas at +215. Dylan Holloway at +340. What I would do here is I would look at Kyrou for 2+ points. I do like him for 2+ at +320. And then I would look at Montreal's Cole Caulfield for 2+ points. I do think Montreal probably gets 2 goals. I think Cole Caulfield could get a goal and an assist. It is risky. The power play point for Caulfield, though, is going to pay off for us tonight. And I think you probably look at that instead of the 2+ points. The Caulfield power play point at +1 or +270, just because Binghamton should play really strong in this one. But I do think Caulfield ends up getting a point in some way in this matchup. So those are the players I'm looking at for 2+ points. Again, I'm staying off Vegas and Minnesota because I'm nervous of that one going over. I think it's a lower scoring game. Thomas Hertl of the lineup. We're going to need to see some adjustments to those lines. Washington versus Winnipeg, again, another lower scoring games. The Red Wings versus Colorado, another lower scoring game for me. Calgary, I think Kadri and Huberdeau are your playmakers. Mackenzie Weegar, Morgan Frost as well, but I don't want to take anyone for 2+ points. And then I've got a lower scoring game between the New York Rangers and the LA Kings. So hopefully that answered your guys' questions and thoughts on who I'm looking at for the 2+ points. And now I know you guys wanted to look at the St. Louis Blues, looking at the St. Louis Blues to take the Stanley Cup. So looking at St. Louis here, to take the Stanley Cup. They're still fighting for that wild card spot. So right now they are +10,000 to win the Stanley Cup. So that is some phenomenal, phenomenal plus money on them. They've got a long way to go to get this. Firstly, they have to be able to secure that last wild card spot. So let's just look at them. Let's look at their game in hand. So right now, they are occupying that second wild card spot in the Western Conference. They're rolling in here, playing 72 games, which is scary. They played one more game than the Vancouver Canucks. And they played 3 more games than Calgary. So same, and they played one more game than Utah. There's a lot of players or a lot of teams fighting for this last wild card spot. So it's the St. Louis Blues, the Vancouver Canucks, the Calgary Flames, and the Utah Hockey Club. Utah's played 69 games. Utah's played 71, 69 for Calgary, 71 for Vancouver, and then 72 for the St. Louis Blues. So the St. Louis Blues in their 72 games have 81 points. So they are sitting 3 points ahead of Vancouver, but they've played an extra game. So dangerous. 78 points here for Vancouver, 77 for Calgary, who's only played 69. So it's pivotal here for the St. Louis Blues to pick up every single point that they can get. Now, this team has been playing solid road and home. You look at them out there on the road, 18, 14, and 4 on the season. At home, they've gone 19, 14-3. So we've got some really solid numbers out there. I love goaltending. I love their defense, and offensively, they are a grind 'em team. Now, if we look at some of those odds, we've got those odds to make the Stanley Cup, and then looking at them to make the playoffs. And that is where I think you'd want to look before you look here at them to win the Stanley Cup. So to make the playoffs right now in the Western Conference, we know the Minnesota Wild are holding that first wild card spot. Kaprizov, like you guys said, has been skating out there. They're coming in at minus 4,500. So not a place that you're going to put your money. And then you've got the St. Louis Blues at plus 104, Calgary at plus 210, Vancouver at plus 290, and the Utah Hockey Club at plus 1,100. You're looking here at right now, the St. Louis Blues are occupying that wild card spot. I would be cautious at betting them at only plus 104 right now. If we see Calgary get the win, which I expect tonight, they're going to pick up a couple more points. We're also going to see Vancouver and Calgary playing in the next couple of days. If St. Louis continues to win, but these teams continue to win as well, you're going to see that point number going really a lot closer to than what it is, especially if St. Louis does lose one of these games. And then I would want to jump in on them at plus 104. It's not enough plus money for me to jump in on the St. Louis Blues with how tight this battle is, because again, you look at the points separating these teams and the games. So Vancouver's only 3 points behind them with one game in hand. Calgary has 77 points in 69 games. So they are 3 games behind, right? So it's going to be a hard battle here for the St. Louis Blues, but one, they have every ability. And if they're able to make it to the playoffs, and you look at playoff style hockey, they have the team who can really grind them out. So looking at who's the favorite right now to take the Stanley Cup, if I just pull that up for you guys, it is the Florida Panthers at plus 500. You got the Dallas Stars at plus 550, Colorado at plus 800, and Edmonton falling all the way to plus 900 with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl currently out of the lineup. I do think there's a couple longer shots to look at, especially here, the Washington Capitals with how strong they've been playing are plus 1,100. We'll see how they come into the playoffs and how they get things done. But it's interesting to see the Dallas Stars still at that second spot there with Mikko Rantanen, with them being able to pick him up from Carolina, which originally from the Colorado Avalanche. I like all of these teams sitting here at the top. They all have such a strong ability, and going into the playoffs, it comes down to, it's hard to take a Stanley Cup winner, because who is going to get hurt out there on the ice can be impactful for these teams. Now, Florida getting Brad Marchand, he should be hitting the ice shortly, and we've got Matthew Tkachuk on the IR. We know he'll be back for playoffs, with Florida playing a little bit of the game that Vegas really did start there. So looking at the chase for the Great Eight here for Ovechkin on Wayne Gretzky, we are seeing him to break the record this season. It's minus 114. Hopefully you guys jumped in months ago with me and got that plus money. We'll start breaking down where he's going to be able to hit that. That will be up on the SportsGrid app tomorrow. So make sure you do stay tuned for the SportsGrid app for everything like that. But you guys are absolutely the best. You're a longtime Flyers fan. Well, I hope they're able to step up and break this losing streak for you soon. That is for sure. You guys rock. Thank you for being here each and every day. Well, Jamie, if they score 7 goals, I have a soft spot for the Kings. We'll hit those player props with Kempe, Kopitar, and Byfield if we're able to do that. If you really think they're going to hit 7, make sure you play those guys for 2+ points in this one. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup there. I really appreciate you guys so much for being here. You're feeling the abs, taking it all. You look at the speed out there with Nathan McKinnon, Necas, Kale McCarr, and the speed they're able to go in transition down the ice. It's unbelievable. I watch it with an awe. Like my mouth feels like open. So intense and highly explosive out there. It's going to come down to Colorado. Can goaltending live up to expectations? Can Mackenzie Blackwood be the answer for the Colorado Avalanche? Because if Mackenzie Blackwood can play like we have seen him in some spots this season. Like, he has stood on his freaking head. He's looked like he's got 8 arms out there, right? Like, so if Mackenzie Blackwood can play like that, they have every ability to get things done. But you guys, Vegas to win the cup. It'd be great to see Vegas make another run at it out there. They need all their players nice and healthy to be able to do so. But you look at goaltending, they got the goaltending, they got the defense. Thomas Hertl has to get healthy again, but Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, the playmakers there for Vegas. Quite the team. You guys rock. I missed you guys. Thank you for all of the love as to let's make some freaking money out there on the ice tonight. And if you don't think St. Louis will make it, then are you betting my Calgary Flames to make it? You're getting plus money for Calgary right now. So Vegas, Washington rematch, exacta bet. Cody, I don't hate it. I really don't hate it at all. So let me know what kind of odds you're getting on Vegas taking on the Washington Capitals. Could you imagine that one? That would be fantastic to see. If the Washington Capitals won the cup this year, would Ovi retire? That is a huge question mark for me. Ovi getting up there in age, you know, if he's breaking records here for Wayne Gretzky and then they're able to win the cup, if I was Ovi, I'd say sayonara. I would be done. His family is at all of these games. His family is so adorable. You know he's ready to spend some solid time with them. I can't imagine how draining the hockey season must be on them. But you guys, we've ran way over the 1 hour mark. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you. Join me for Cup of Joe here in a little bit. You don't want to miss out on that. I'll be on Game Time Decisions with the guys tonight. So come on over, join me on Game Time Decisions later with Joe Ranieri. And then stay tuned to the SportsGrid app. Like I said, we'll be talking about when I think Ovi is going to be breaking those records over there. That will drop tomorrow on SportsGrid on the app. You guys are the best. We will see you tomorrow. Hit some anytime goal scorers as well as save shots on goal for some of these goalies.